So, this is probably going to be a long video, and it's going to be done haphazardly because I wasn't really trying to make a YouTube video, but I just finished watching the Grapevines, the Black Vote episode, and it made me feel some things, if I'm honest. So I'm just going to get some shit off my chest. Now, the main thing that I'm noticing in general, because a lot of the specific points I don't even really feel like addressing because a lot of it is just irrelevant in my opinion as far as picking, as far as convincing people to vote for Joe Biden, right? But I've noticed that even for the leftists, and on that panel they had leftists on there. They had Queen and Jay on there, and they were fucking trying to be honest, and even they were like, I'm gonna vote for this nigga even though I don't want to, right? And that's a caveat that I've noticed that a lot of leftists have put forth. And it's a caveat that comes from this space of peer pressure more so than legitimate ideological stances or political stances, right? And low key, I totally understand it. I totally understand not wanting to be the person that makes things worse. And especially when you get these fucking arguments about how not voting for Biden is a vote for Trump, or voting third party is a vote for Trump, which all of that is bullshit because a vote for Trump is a vote for Trump. Anything else is Biden not earning your vote and failing in that, because he needs to earn your vote. It doesn't just get handed to him, you know? And with that, you have to do more than just be like, I'm not Trump, right? So all that's bullshit. But I noticed that for a lot of leftists, this is their first rodeo, right? This is their first legit having to fight for their political positions, you know? Because this is the first time that they're faced with having to vote for a really egregious candidate in the face of this terrible shit that's happening in the country. And, having this existential crisis thing be wagered against them, And it's unfortunate because although I understand where they're coming from, I don't really want to fall prey to that shit because I honestly don't give a fuck about stuff like that. And I think it's because it's not my first rodeo. I didn't vote for Obama in 2008. I didn't vote for him in 2012. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. And I am not voting for Joe Biden in 2020. And it's mainly because I have had a list of grievances and concerns that I have brought up every election cycle. And every election cycle, people keep wagering assertions and rhetoric that try to downplay my concerns and try to make it seem like my concerns are abstract and a purity test. And as the years go on, these concerns just become more and more fucking dire. And the rhetoric that they use against my concerns look more and more cartoonish and silly in the face of what's happening in the world today. You know what I'm saying? Now here, I'm going to give you guys an example of this. But before I do, I want to give you a couple of assumptions. Okay? One, I assume that we can all agree that police brutality is a problem in this country. Not only is it just a problem in this country, but it's a problem that more and more Americans are trying to solve via protests. Okay? Second assumption, I assume that the majority of the people who are voting for Biden, whether enthusiastically or not, are doing it because they feel like Donald Trump is an existential threat to this nation and specifically to black people, right? Because we're talking about the black vote. And I make this assumption because when I look at the Democratic establishment, either politically or through their institutions or through the media, that's how they paint Donald Trump. He is an existential threat. Now, for those of you who need an example of other existential threats to see how bad this guy is, Other concerns and existential threats for the country is shit like climate change, right? So you got like climate change and Donald Trump. These are the two existential threats that the centrists and the Democrats, would put forward, right? In fact, Donald Trump is an even bigger existential crisis than climate change. Okay. Third assumption. I'm assuming that the reason why everybody is voting Biden to get rid of this existential threat is because they feel like the Democrats are the only way to protect ourselves from Donald Trump, right? Now, this is why I find this shit interesting. And this is why I feel like a lot of these people are full of shit, either through being purposely obtuse or being very, very naive about the realities of this country. Back in 2019, there were provisions in the Patriot Act that were due to expire, right? During this same time, the Democrats were getting ready to impeach Donald Trump. Okay, so this is at the height of their whole, this nigga's an existential threat thing, right? Now, while talking this existential threat rhetoric and how they want to impeach him, instead of doing nothing in Congress and just letting those provisions expire, they renewed them and essentially gave Trump the ability to continue to be able to surveil and detain American citizens without due process by simply characterizing them as a domestic threat. Now, this is an issue. This happened in 2019, and a lot of people, when I bring this up, will be like, oh, well, maybe they didn't have enough power to fight it. It's like, no, they controlled the Senate, and they had enough seats in the House to stall those provisions from being renewed, and they just didn't fucking do that. Now, they just gave this man this unprecedented amount of power during an era where we're seeing an exponential growth of American citizens putting themselves on the line and fighting against police brutality. Now, the police is the country's hard power. They are the stick that enforces the carrots of the government, be it city, county, state, federal, whatever. And that's essentially the American people fighting against a state-sanctioned abuse of them, right? Now, in order for these people to organize, they've organized mainly under the Black Lives Matter organization, right? So you have basically like a renaissance of BLM, because back in 2016, the country's view of BLM was very fucking negative. Like, everybody applauded Hillary Clinton for putting a BLM protester in her place, when she wanted to confront her about police brutality. Fast forward 3 years, and it's a totally different fucking world because people are getting sick and tired of watching black people get murdered by the cops, right? So we're in this climate. And at the same time that this growth is happening, you have all these three-letter agencies like the CIA and NSA and FBI coming up with this domestic threat category that is known as the Black Identity Extremists. And lo and behold, what organization fits under that category now? BLM. And other organizations, of course. But BLM is the main one that people are using to fight against police brutality, right? So these saviors of Trump, saviors from Trump, who are telling us that we have to vote for them in order to save ourselves from this existential threat that's even worse than fucking climate change. These assholes just gave this man the ability to pluck people out of their communities and hold them up somewhere for an indefinite amount of time with no access to a lawyer and shit, under the guise of possibly being labeled a Black identity extremist. Like, and for whatever fucking reason, these vote or die niggas just do not want to reconcile that fact. Like, that's a fucking problem. That's a problem. In the face of being able to protect black citizens who are protesting for their right to not be extrajudicially killed by the police. They gave the existential threat an unprecedented amount of power to detain these people and surveil them. And nobody wants to do anything about that. Like, nobody wants to talk about that shit. Nobody wants to be like, yo, why are the Democrats doing that? That's fucked up. Like, now back in 2008, nobody gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody cared. Trayvon Martin didn't even happen by that time. The only Americans that were really being conscripted and like fucking, surveilled were like Muslim Americans in New York City by NYPD, or like some fucking military person who was trying to like get the fuck away from the military or some shit. But fast forward these years and the lack of proactivity that we have had, and now that level of treatment is not just staying for just Muslims, which, by the way, that's a problem in and of itself. But apparently Democrats don't give a shit. But it's like, now we're at a point now where any American can be a victim of this provision. And literally, to prevent that from happening, all the Democrats had to do was nothing. Like, they just had to just let the shit expire. And they didn't. And that's concerning. Like, how can you be a savior for me from this existential threat when you just gave this existential threat the ability to kidnap my ass, my nigga? Like, and what trips me out is that the majority of the people who are like vote or die, and this is, you got to give them the black vote and all this other shit, they have Black Lives Matter hashtags in their fucking bios. They're out there in the streets protesting sometimes. A lot of them are fucking verified. They have thousands of people who watch them and follow them. They are absolutely possible targets to being labeled black identity extremists. And some of these dumb fucks even label themselves as black identity extremists. It's like, yo, like, it don't take much. And there was no guarantee that Donald Trump will lose this election. And back in 2019, there was definitely no chance in hell that he was going to be kicked out of office. The Democrats knew that. So they had every reason to let those provisions expire. And they didn't do it. And nobody wants to explain to me why. And this type of problem is why I don't fucking trust the Democrats. And why I don't want to fucking vote for this fucking party. Because they do shit like this. And in all honesty, that shit's not even my main fucking concern. Like, as a voter, I'm a one-issue voter. And my one issue is Medicare for all. Period. Like, literally, all Biden has to do is say, we're going to push for Medicare for all. Like, legitimately do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to push for this. It's in our party platform. All this other shit. But, lo and behold, they don't want to do that. Both him and Kamala Harris have talked about pushing against, or at least walking away. I'm going to be fair, walking away from this idea of pushing Medicare for all. It's not even in the party fucking platform. Despite the fact that 90% of Democrats want Medicare for all. And fuck it, 67% of Trump supporters want Medicare for all. The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. Mostly because we are currently in an international medical emergency with this fucking pandemic. And despite the fact that this would be politically, politically advantageous for anyone to capitalize on everybody wanting national health care, nobody, and especially and conspicuously the Democratic Party, nobody wants to fucking capitalize on the shit. And for whatever reason, none of these vote or die motherfuckers, none of these resistant motherfuckers want to reconcile that for me. They don't want to make it make sense for me. They want to lie and say that it's not popular or it's not really strategically helpful to be for Medicare for all, but that's fucking bullshit. Like, if you really wanted to have a blowout election, I don't see any other fucking topic. There is no other policy in this country right now that could provide you with such an ace in the fucking hole for voters as Medicare for all. And here we are, nobody wants to fucking do it. But when I point these things out, I'm being a purist. I'm putting Biden through a purity test, even though I'm asking him for one fucking thing. I'm not being pragmatic. I don't understand political strategy, all this other bullshit. Like, there is a laundry list of things that the Democratic Party is doing that you literally have to be purposely obtuse or unbelievably naive to not see what's happening. And then to turn around and lecture people about not voting for these niggas. How do you want me, like, you're sitting here telling me we have to do this because that's how we'll get the leverage, we'll get the racist fascists out of the office, and with these people, we can work with them. We can push them to the left. How does that make sense? When at their Democratic fucking convention, they had I have the most strict anti-abortion laws on record, Kasich, at the convention trying to talk to Democrats about what it means to be a Democrat. Does that look like something a party that's willing to like move to the left would do? They're moving to the right of their own fucking positions. It's not some leftist ideal to be pro women's reproduction rights. Why the fuck do you have an anti-abortionist talking on your fucking convention? Why? Why would he even have a space in the convention? You know what I'm saying? Why would the Biden campaign, knowing that their weakest demographic are Latino Americans, why would they hire Ana Navarro, who brags about her family's connections to the Contras, who are fucking literal textbook fascists, who tortured and disappeared people? Like, this bitch brags about this shit. And Biden looked at that and was like, that's a good way to get fucking Latinos on board. Are you fucking serious? The only people that shit is appealing to are goddamn Cubans in Miami. Nobody else. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Miami's probably going to already go for Biden, like, in all honesty. So, like, he really is not working towards these things. He's not doing things. He's not acting in a way where he wants votes. As many votes as he can get. Like, he's not acting like he wants as many votes as he can get because he's not doing anything to be enticing to the people, like, to voters. He's trying to appeal to a very small group of people who will not guarantee him a win. And that's concerning. And for whatever reason, the resistance people don't want to reconcile that, but they would love to spend all this energy blaming everybody else about why we need to vote for him and why we are aiding in Trump. They spend more energy talking to people like me than they do phone banking. That's concerning. How can you save me? How can you save me from this existential threat when it's obvious that you niggas are doing this wrong? Like, it's clear. It's fucking clear. It's like pretty fucking, like, the shit is obvious. Y'all are not doing anything to get as many, like, as big of an existential threat as this is. You're not really putting any of the work to get the votes that you need to get. And why that's happening is beyond me. I don't know. I have my theories. I have my guesses on why that's happening. But if I were to give you the opportunity and the floor to explain to me why that's happening, I don't really get comprehensive fucking answers about that. And to sit here and try to talk about the black vote as if it's like, you know, this coveted thing. Come on. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There are less people, there are less black voters that are like me, who are like, I vote, but I'm not going to vote for you. And even still, the majority of black voters, or not the majority, but at least a good half of them, just don't want to vote. And I don't see this part, like, fucking being a vote tep and annoying the fuck out of everybody and lecturing everybody on Twitter Instead of, like, I don't know, going door to door and listening to people's concerns, maybe trying to address those concerns, maybe raising those concerns to the party that you're trying to put back in power so that they can switch their shit up to actually garner some fucking energy. Like, instead of fucking bothering me doing that work. Like, I don't understand why you're not. I don't understand. Like, how do you guys, you really want to win, but you don't want to do any of the work? Like, it's the laziest thing I've ever fucking seen in my goddamn life. It's amazing. And this is, I'm letting y'all know, for the newbies, this is every cycle they've done this. Every cycle they've done it. And some cycles, they're way more annoying than others. Like, I can, in all honesty, as annoying as these motherfuckers have been for 2020, they were fucking annoying in 2008. Like, they were so bad that I left the party. Like, I was like, fuck this. I mean, like, they're running a close second, because now I'm at a point where it's like, I want to fucking just dismantle the Democratic Party. Like, I just want to tear this shit down. But I don't really know if it's because of just this particular cycle or if it's just because I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. But I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. Like, fuck this, y'all. Fuck this. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts. That's how I feel about this. I'm tired. I'm tired of the theatrics. I'm tired of the performative nature that a lot of these people are going through. And it tells me, in all honesty, that a lot of these people are doing all of this to feel comfortable. Not for change, not because they legitimately think that they can make something happen, but because they want to feel comfortable again. All of that inequality and all the fucked up shit that comes with the neoliberals that we were literally dealing with from, like, I'll be generous, 2000 to 2016. Let's just say the last 16 years or whatever. All of that. That was a problem. That was terrible. That was terrible. We lived through that. But for whatever reason, everybody forgot about it. Because the squeaky wheel that is Trump has fucking whitewashed that decade. And it's just like, I'm tired, man. I'm tired. Y'all not serious about this shit. And if you were, I feel like if these motherfuckers were as serious about these issues that they say they were, they would be a lot more angry than they are right now. They'd be a lot more concerned. There wouldn't be as much hope that they have. So it's like, y'all niggas are delusional. You're delusional. You're delusional if you think that we can go back. Like, there's a normal to go back to. There isn't. That shit is gone. So you're doing all of this for what? Like, I don't know why you guys think that we're going to go back to normal if Biden becomes president. There is no more normal. There isn't. If anything, like, especially when it comes to this fucking right-wing terrorist shit, if anything, all that's going to do is give these fucking right-wing bastards yet another opposition party. Like 4 years of an opposition to sit there and say that they're being oppressed. Because that's what they're going to do. That's what they did under Obama for 8 years. That's what they're going to do under Biden. They're getting ready to position themselves that way as we speak. If you have not been paying attention to the RNC convention, that's the rhetoric that they're going with. That they're getting ready to be placed under a socialist regime under Joe fucking Biden. Can you believe it? I don't know. All I know is that my heart goes out to the leftists who feel like they are responsible for this shit. My heart goes out to the leftists and the Bernie supporters that feel like they are responsible in protecting, like, using the Democrats to protect. Like, they just have to do it. Like, my heart goes out to you guys. It really fucking does. Because that rhetoric is a lie. and it obscures the real problems that are happening. And I will tell you this, lastly, we continue to go down this road, if we continue to go through this process, this cycle of lesser evil, and you have to do it because if you don't, then you're voting for the bad and all this other shit, something worse is going to happen. Something way worse than Trump. Way worse. Way more dangerous. Way more efficient. And organizations, right-wing terrorist organizations, are going to, like, they're legitimizing themselves even more with law enforcement. And you cannot combat that with the rhetoric that Biden is promoting, which is giving them more money. Essentially, Biden is going to give police more money to hire the very militiamen that they've been working with unofficially. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the future. That money against police brutality is going to just further legitimize these militia groups and give them financial avenue to get more authority. And once these motherfuckers, like, they've done it and they're doing it again. Once these motherfuckers get that in a position of power, once they get into a union, it's very hard to get these niggas fired, as we can see. Things are going to get worse. Like, that's set in stone. That's what's happening. It's not going back to normal. Things are going to get worse. I can guarantee it. And I feel like the sooner we can accept and understand just how bad things are, just how dangerous things have become, the less inclined we'll be to play these fuck games with our votes.